Imagine being so vexed that you decide to change the scope of your video because you forgot to turn on your mic. All right, how's it going? What's good? I shot a video before this, so disregard that. We're just gonna do a quick little educational video and have y'all comment in the comment section on stuff that I missed that you would like to see in the next video going forward. So this one, pretty plain and simple. I'm talking to all you new videographers out there. Right now in 2025, coming out of 2024, media is as accessible as it's ever been. Like anybody can just take up an iPhone, a DJI Osmo Pocket 3, a mirrorless camera, even a GoPro, and create proper cinematic, beautiful images. But to do that, you would have to first decide on what exactly do you want to create. So what I want this video to be is just like a breakdown of a few things that I think are important before you decide on, you know, what your first camera should be, like whether it should be a action camera, a proper mirrorless, or should you just use your phone, you know? So hopefully you guys like it. Hope you guys like the structure of just quick and fast videos. I'm gonna try to do more of it, but to be determined. I don't know. Keep up to date on what I drop, but let's get into it. The first thing on the list I would say to consider is, what is your shooting niche? So are you trying to create, you know, social media content for yourself or for a client? Are you trying to create, you know, sports clips for your friend or a family member or school? Are you trying to shoot documentaries or trying to do corporate videos for like a bank or a business? Like, what is your niche, you know, exactly? Like, what are you trying to create? Once you narrow that down and narrow down the scale that you're trying to do it at, that will actually determine basically what camera you need or how best to invest in the type of camera you need from the start. I would say that's the best first question to ask yourself is, what am I shooting? And the layman's terms of that is, what's your niche? The second question after that I would say is, what budget do you have? Like, if you have no budget, do you have a phone that can create media? If you do have budget, is it only enough for an action cam like a GoPro or like a Pocket 3? And if you have a little bit higher budget than that, can you afford like your first mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses? Or should you just, you know, rent and borrow one until you're comfortable enough to own your equipment? I think that's an important question to ask yourself, because once you determine the budget, now you can scale up and down how you wanna start. You know, you don't want to start off just buying the cheapest camera you see, but then you can't achieve the results you think you could have achieved if you bought the camera that you needed, right? After you lock in the budget, then I want you to think about, you know, do you want to buy it new or do you want to buy it used? Like for most people, there's a whole stigma about like, I don't want to buy a used camera because like everybody else who owned it previously, you know, has used it already, or it's used up so it's not good enough or whatnot. But right now, like right now in the market, so many new cameras are about to drop that all the cameras that are used, quote unquote, on the market will be fire. Like you can find used Sony a7 IVs, used FX3s, used a7 IIIs, a7S IIIs, used Lumix S5 2Xs, like used Canon C200s. Like there's so many cameras that people are deciding, hey, I already put my, you know, stamp on my brand and I already put my hours in. I would like to sell it to someone else who can use it. See if you can get ahead of the curve and get like a camera that used to be professional 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and make it professional for you right now as is. If you want to buy new, then I would say buy last generation. So for a Sony shooter, don't wait for the a7 IV or the a7S4 or the FX4. Like, buy what works with your workflow right now. So if your workflow can afford an a7 II, buy an a7 II and just use it to the best of your ability. If your workflow, you know, on the Canon side of things can buy a M50, buy an M50. Like a lot of people say that's like the best starter vlogging camera. Even some people are saying, oh, get the R50, because if you're gonna be in Canon, you wanna start off with RF lenses, you know, to keep yourself in that ecosystem. That's pretty cool. Same thing with Lumix. Like there's the G series, you have the G95, the G85, the G100. You can even go to the GH5, which is really old, but still good enough. the G9 II, the GH7. All those obviously are getting a bit more professional, but they're still in the category of budget versus like high end, right? If you decide that you want to go the used route, just make sure you find a reputable source. If you're gonna buy from Facebook, just make sure you meet the person in person. You check the camera out. Any questions you may have, either ask them in advance or check it on site, you know, check online on the features that the camera should have, the features that it shouldn't have, and the way in which you as like a used buyer can basically get the lifespan out of it. If you're gonna buy new, obviously, you know, check B&H, Adorama, Walmart, Best Buy, stuff like that. But B&H, I would say, is your best bet because they also have a used department, and theirs is validated in the sense that they actually do quality checks and stuff. So I would say if you're gonna buy new or used, B&H is pretty flawless in terms of the type of caliber of equipment you would find there versus on Marketplace. Like Marketplace is a bit sketch sometimes, but at the same time, it could be a godsend at times because you might get a Sony a7 IV for like $1,200, you know? Editor Jordan here. So in the video, I realized that I was talking about the whole concept of like buying cameras used versus buying them new. And there kind of was like a mix up where I was saying that you can get it for $1,200 with a lens new, or at least that's how it sounded to me. So I wanted to clarify that. I was talking about buying it on Marketplace and someone selling it to you, you know, with the lens for $1,200 versus when you're buying it, you know, new, you're getting the camera for $1,200 without the lens. So I just wanted to clarify that. It was a bit confusing when I was editing it, so I didn't want it to be confusing when someone's watching it. So hopefully that helps. But besides that, let's get back to the video. Thanks for hearing me out. When people are selling gear and they want it to go, they want it to go. So I would say definitely take that into consideration. If you're gonna buy new or used, you have to determine that yourself. But I would highly recommend, if you're just starting out, buying used is pretty cool, pretty good. Just do your checks, you know, make sure everything is good. But if you want to have something that can last forever, then new is obviously the best course of action. Plus you get a warranty, you know, to cover any accidents or whatnot, or any issues that happen because of the company themselves, you know? So take that into consideration. After you decide your budget, after you decide if you want to buy new or used, and after you decide your niche, you want to now think about your requirements. Like, do you need 4K in the first place? Do you need high bit rate? Do you need color fidelity? So do you need like a log profile that you can like pull your colors, color grade? Do you need 10-bit, 16-bit, 12-bit? Do you need something that has an APS-C crop? Do you need something that has a full frame sensor? Do you need something that has unlimited recording, good photo capabilities, has like great mic support, great autofocus, has a good lens ecosystem? All of those things that seem minor are actually really important because that determines ultimately what camera you're gonna get. Because if you get a camera that misses one of those important features, then now you're gonna basically be like, oh, I don't want it anymore, I'm gonna upgrade to like a different camera. Now you're spending more money that, frankly, if you're just taking the time to just figure out exactly what you want, you wouldn't be worrying, you know, about, oh, but I need this, but I need that, but I need that. You wanna have a camera that basically stands the test of time until you need to upgrade. Because there's a difference between upgrading because, oh, someone on YouTube said this is like the best camera for 2025 or this is the best camera for 2026 versus this is the best camera for corporate people. This is the best camera for documentary. This is the best camera for whatever in your bracket, in your niche. So if your best camera for you is a GoPro, it's a GoPro because you do a lot of outdoor sports, you know, dirt bike riding, snowboarding, stuff like that. But if you're more slow, methodical, you know, you plan out all your shoots, then your best camera might be a very old red because you want to get into that proper cinematography background where you're building up the camera, you're breaking it down, you're using manual lenses. All those tiny little nitpicks are determined by you saying, hey, what do I need out of the camera? What do I need it to do for me? Right now we live in an era where everything is shot in 4K, but everything is uploaded either for social media or just for YouTube. YouTube right now, 4K is good. Instagram, 1080 is good. Like, you don't need 6K, 8K, 12K, it doesn't really matter. but at the same time, I can't really say that without sounding like a hypocrite, because right now I'm shooting on a 6K camera, but I'm shooting on a 6K camera because my workflow requires me to have a higher resolution camera for when I need it, but when I don't need it, I just shoot 4K, you know? So don't let the numbers or spec sheets fool you. Like, always keep in mind your end goal, what your requirements are. Not the requirements of someone trying to sell a product to you, the requirement of you trying to buy a product. After you find out your requirements, now you're gonna pick a brand. Every single brand out there, barring some that are unattainable, such as RE and Red, have pretty diverse markets of cameras that they have available. So from the budget end to the cinema end to the in-between mid-range, you are chilling. Like, the ones that I personally recommend, just based on using or based on being in the ecosystem with, from either friends of mine who have them or just my personal experience, are Canon, Sony, and Lumix. Like, I know a lot of people might say, oh, what about Nikon? What about Fujifilm and stuff? I personally don't have experience on those cameras, so I can't really say pick one or the other, but these three that I mentioned, Canon, Sony, Lumix, are the three that I personally think are right now killing the market. Sony, especially with their consumer side, like, they have stuff for vlogging all the way up to cinema. You know, same thing with Lumix, they have stuff for vlogging all the way up to cinema, sort of. And then Canon is more prosumer and then cinema. There's no like mini middle ground. Again, unless it's the R50 or the M50 or some other in between, like a R flat or an RP. But those have a lot of limitations that I don't think people in 2025 should be going through. So once you pick your brand, as long as it lines up with your budget, as long as it lines up with your requirements, and as long as it fits the type of content, so the niche that you're trying to shoot and cover, you should be chilling. Now, after you do that, if you either buy it with a lens, you can just start shooting, right? If you don't buy it with a lens, now you have to figure out what type of lenses you want. So this might be a 24-70, you know, that's a mid-range, like wide angle but zoom at the same time. Or it might be a 20mm prime because you just want vlogging only and you want to have like that bokeh behind you because, you know, 1.4, 1.8 maybe. Or you might get an 85mm 1.8 because you're into photos, you're into portraiture, you're into, you know, landscapes with compressive, you know, looks to them. I don't know, everybody has their own different requirements. My recommendation would be to get a mid-range zoom, so something that can zoom in and zoom out, just because since you're just starting out, you don't know what like focal length you want for a prime. Like, if you go buy a 35mm prime, now you're stuck with a 35mm prime. If you buy an 85, you're stuck with an 85. But if you have a 24-105, for instance, that's at 2.8 through and through. You zoom in to 105, you have 2.8. You zoom out to 24, you have 2.8. You zoom to 30, 2.8, 35, you get my gist, right? It's versatile versus being locked into like one specific thing. And I think that's better for people who are just starting out, just because you're learning and you want to learn with your camera. And I think that's the best way to do it. Some others might recommend, oh no, just buy one lens and use that one lens because it will teach you better skills. But unless you have like some skills coming in, I think learning with the ability to change your parameters is a better way of doing it. So that's just my take on that. The final thing I want to say in this video is determine how you're going to purchase it. I strongly recommend buying your camera just outright. Like, not buying it with a credit card, not buying it with Afterpay, not buying it with a payment method. Like, be able to purchase it one time and own it one time. Obviously, when you get bigger into business or when you get like, you know, larger scaling, you have to be buying cameras that are like $100,000, $80,000. Like, yes, then you can start talking the business side of things where, okay, I'm gonna put it on the credit card to build a history and that's okay. But right now, as a beginner, you don't want to have like a monthly bill coming in, because do you have monthly clients coming in? Maybe, maybe not. Most likely not. So you want to have something that pretty much is covered, like it's cleared off, like, you know, you don't have any limitations to like, oh, I can't scratch it because if they have to take it back from me, then yeah, now it's scratching, they're gonna have to charge an extra on it or whatnot. But you don't want to have a bill trailing behind you. You get what I'm saying? So anything that you can do to avoid those payment methods, so either save up a little bit longer or buy something that's a little bit below your requirements, that way you're not going overboard. I think that's the better approach, but at the same time, I can't really tell you what to do, if you get my drift. Like, it's really up to what your principles are. My principle is buy once and use it until it dies, and buy to own. So I'm not buying it to have it be paid off. I'm buying it to, hey, here's how much this thing costs. Hey, here's how much money I have to pay for that thing, pay for it. So yeah, I think I'm gonna just leave it at that. If you guys have any suggestions, you know, my fellow creatives out there, if you guys have any suggestions or anything that you think new creators, especially people coming into 2025 who are interested in starting on their media journey, how they should approach getting their first camera, feel free to comment in the comment section. I would love to hear professional feedback from you guys, and or anybody who is actually thinking about buying their first camera. What questions do you have that maybe I didn't answer in this video? I would love to hear from you. And with that being said, and all my points being hit, hope y'all are having a good 2025 so far. Hope y'all are, you know, getting ready for either work to pick back up, school to pick back up, or even just going on vacation. You know, some people's years are reversed maybe, but that's pretty much it. Like and subscribe if you guys appreciated this style of video, me just educating you in a quick, you know, format. And yeah, let me know if there's anything I can do to improve my videos going forward. But yeah, with that being said, hope y'all are doing good, as I said previously. And for those of y'all who are always here, you know the vibe. We out.